I'm Jimmy Johnson, and welcome to the Stay the Course podcast. I'm an award-winning journalist, motivational speaker, spiritual leader, blogger, and now a podcaster. In this podcast, my hope is to introduce you to some of the most influential thought leaders around the globe, all here to inspire, uplift, and motivate you to fulfill your purpose and make a difference on this earth. You're called to stay the course. On this episode of the Stay the Course podcast, we're taking it from the East Coast to the West Coast to a city northeast of Los Angeles, Pasadena, California. The city of roses, also the home of singer, songwriter, producer, and musician who has toured and played with some of the top Christian artists of today. Names like Tasha Cobbs, Matt Redman, Israel Houghton, and Amanda Cook. He's also worked with some of the most influential churches in the country. Now this husband, father of one, and friend of mine is focusing more on producing his own musical talents. In fact, on July 9th, he's releasing his very first single, No You Won't, on all platforms. Let's welcome Pierre Aristil to the Stay the Course podcast.
Hey, what's up, Jimmy? Thanks for having me, man.
It's awesome to have you on this show. It's been a long time, man. You know, when you were here in South Florida, I would see you all the time, but now you're on the West Coast, different time zone, 3-hour difference. So it's good to have you on the podcast and really just to catch up to see what you're working on.
Yeah, man. It's been really cool being actually on the West Coast. So I've always heard people say the best is in the West, right? And I thought, man, that's whack until I actually lived in the West. And I have to say, man, the best actually is in the West. I lived in the South. I lived in Florida. I lived in New York. I lived in the Midwest several times. And now I'm living in California. And dude, like, I'm loving it. I really am.
And I actually had a chance to come and visit you, your wife, and your son, me and my fiance at the time, now my wife, Pascal. And we visited Pasadena, and it's absolutely beautiful. But man, it's dry.
It is dry. And actually right now it's getting pretty hot. A little earlier than normally, like, you know what I mean? Like the other day, it was probably 98 just in the early afternoon. And by 3 or 4 o'clock, I mean, it was like 101. And we're in June right now, man. So it's sweaty, but it's still better than West Palm Beach. I mean, it beats that humidity, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, man, you leave us and now you're talking bad about us. But hey, man, let's jump right into this interview. So how long have you been playing music? For those out there who are listening, give us a little bit about your music history. You know, when did you start playing?
Yeah, so honestly, I've been playing my whole life. I actually, for example, the keys, for example, the piano, I actually don't remember ever taking lessons or the day I learned it or picked it up. My dad is classically trained. You know, for those of you that don't know, I'm Haitian. I was born actually here in the States, but my parents were born and raised in Haiti. And my dad, he grew up playing in Haiti, and he played so well to where like missionaries would come from America. They enjoyed his playing, like they would pay him to play at a local Haitian church, which that was rare back then. And I mean, they enjoyed him so much that they even helped him come here to the States, to America. And with that was the birth of the family. We live off of music, and so I grew up playing the drums, of course, in church, and I grew up playing piano. The first instrument that my dad put in my hand was a violin.
Wow.
I played the violin at an early age in elementary. Yeah. I actually auditioned for middle school, the arts there in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I made it at obviously from the 5th grade, and I got there 6th grade to 8th grade, and I played the violin and then played in orchestras. My dad had orchestras. Like, I mean, bro, I was 13, 14, traveling locally just with my dad. We did funerals and weddings. I honestly can't tell you how many dead bodies I've seen. Like before I was 17, I did funerals and banquets and like parties and all these formal events, orchestras. And then, the violin got a little weird for me. Like, I was a little kid. I thought, man, I was like, violins are for girls, right?
Like, not a sexy instrument, right?
Right. I was like, man, I can't get girls with the violin. So I switched to like the upright bass. My dad introduced me to the upright bass classically. And then it got two.
As if that's any better.
Right. Well, the thing was so big. And with traveling locally, we couldn't carry around everywhere because he was bringing so many different other instruments. So that's where he introduced me to the electric bass, and the rest was history from there, man. I fell in love with the bass, and I mastered it as a young teen. Like, you know what I mean? I learned my first book. I finished the first book in the first day. 3 weeks later, I was playing in church, and 2 months later, I was actually teaching people that was twice my age. I remember being 15 and I had students that was like 32, 33, right? That's crazy. And the rest was history from there, man.
Man, it seems like you guys had the Jackson Five. I don't know how many siblings you have. I know that you have at least one sister and one brother.
Yeah, actually, it's 5 of us. I have
The Jackson Five.
yeah. In this case, it'd be the Aristil 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's me, my 2 brothers, and then my 2 sisters, and we all play music. Everyone either writes or produces or plays or teaches or something like that. So it's in our blood, man, and it really changed the course. It changed the course of my life, man. Like when I was introduced to music like that.
That's awesome, bro. And, it takes commitment to play, multiple instruments. And I remember playing music growing up, but I didn't take it as seriously as you did. And I probably should, because I probably would have been pretty good. I played the trumpet. I played the snare drum at one time. I played baritone, but man, I didn't get any further than high school with that. But name all of the instruments you can play, because I know you can play quite a few.
Yeah, so I play drums. I played drums at an early age, and then my younger brother, he was playing drums too, and he got better than me. So I actually got a little bit embarrassed, and I just quit the drums. So right,
Pride.
Yeah, exactly. So I quit the drums, but I still play it. Every now and then, like, I remember I was a music director at a church recently, and our drummer got a flat tire on the way to church, and I was actually leading worship up front on acoustic. I put my acoustic down in rehearsal. I let the other singers lead, and I jumped on drums and played the whole service on drums. That was last year, actually. So I still play drums. I play piano, or keys, all the synthesizers, like all that type of stuff. I do play bass. I play bass. I play, let's see, what else? I play the guitar, of course. I still play the violin, like I fiddle in it. Get it? Fiddle.
Yeah, I get it.
I play the violin. And then honestly, that's it. Of course, I sing as well. But right now I'm really focusing on a lot of production.
So that entails a lot of piano, because you can play multiple instruments.
Right. Uh-huh.
So just kind of walk us through the day in the life of Pierre. I know obviously you're married and you have a son. What does your morning look like, for someone who is a musician, who puts in a lot of practice? Because, man, if you look at your social media page, it looks like you play music all day.
Yeah, honestly, music it's part of my life, man. It's part of my life. It's part of, the storytelling, so I'll normally wake up, depending on the day. I have my alarm set up for 6 a.m. every single day, even if I have no place to go that day. 6 a.m. is when I have my alarm set up. Now, let me say, that doesn't mean I wake up at 6 a.m. every single day. You know what I mean? I do hit that snooze.
I can relate.
Some days I'll hit the snooze, but 6 a.m. is when my alarm is set up. I like just waking up, having some quiet time, getting my mind together. I believe that in the morning, that's when your mind is the most alert. You know what I mean? And so, and before the craziness of life come at you, before everyone else wakes up on social media and the phones get in the way, and then, and I live downtown Pasadena. So, the cars and the trucks and all the people and helicopters and stuff. So before all the noise, I like to just get up, put my mind together. And then typically I'll go to the gym. I try to do the gym like 6 days a week. Sometimes I'll do 5, just depends on the week, and then I'll have quiet time. Honestly, in the gym, people laugh at me at this, but sometimes I'm listening to like nothing, like straight chill music, or I'll listen to podcasts, to kind of get my mind together. And then from there, man, I'll come home. Typically I'm with my son. I'm actually the one that gets him like ready in the mornings. I'll make him breakfast. I'll take him to school, things like that, or we'll go on a bike ride. Sometimes I'll bring him to the gym with me too as well. And then from there, throughout my day, I'm normally with somebody. I normally have like someone I'm mentoring or a friend that I'm just hanging out with, like for that day. And then I have different projects. I do a lot of freelance work too. So it depends on the day. Sometimes I may have sessions. I may have a meeting. I may have a rehearsal or something like that. I'll normally try to break in the afternoon to have lunch with my wife. She works actually here downtown West Palm Beach. She's a hairdresser. So I'll try to have lunch with her sometimes.
And you said downtown West Palm Beach. You still living in West Palm
Oh,
Beach?
well. Oh man, I said West Palm Beach, didn't I? That's crazy. Hey, West Palm Beach is actually my home, man. It's my home. I love that place, man. Will I move back? For everyone that's wondering, no. I will not move back, but I said downtown West Palm. That's funny. Downtown Pasadena. So yeah, that's what my day typically looks like. Towards the end of the day, my wife and I were very intentional about ending the day together. So after we put my son down to sleep, we'll normally sit on the couch and we'll unwind together. We'll talk about the day. Like we'll talk about what was a win throughout the day, what was a loss, like where can we improve, like what's the plan for tomorrow. We never go to bed at night without planning the next day, because I've learned if you don't plan the next day, the day is going to take control of itself. So if you can take control of the day before, it's like waking up in the morning saying, do I want to go to the gym today? Most likely you're not going to go. But if you tell yourself the night before, here's my plan for tomorrow, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably stick with your plan because you planned it out before the day came. So that's what we do. That's how we end our day,
That's good, man. And I know you're a man of God, and I didn't hear you mention anything about praying or reading the Bible, but I guess because it's so grained in your system, that's not something you even have to mention. It's just a part of your everyday life.
Bro, you nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. I don't set specific time aside to pray. The Bible says pray without cease. So for me, I see it as we pray all the time. So today, there wasn't a time when I got on my knees to pray. I'm going to confess that. But bro, it's almost 1:00 p.m. here, and I have prayed several times already today. When I woke up, I was like, God, thank you for today. While I'm brushing my teeth, I'm just like, wow, Lord, thank you. Thank you for yesterday. I'm praying with my son as we're walking. Like the Bible talks about in Deuteronomy, it talks about like ingrain this, bind it on your heads, put it on the door frames of your house. Like, so it's actually part of my life, man. I went to go post something here on Instagram, and right when I hit send, I said, Lord, I'm sending this through you. Like, that's praying. So I never put official amen at the top of the day. I'm just praying all day long. And you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you know what? Today I got on my Bible app. I was actually reading on my Bible app. I went through several verses. But just like you said, because it's ingrained, it's part of who I am. It's not a religious act. It's just what I do.
That's good, man. That's good for those people out there who are wondering, because I know, some of the people who know you be like, man, he didn't even mention nothing about reading his Bible.
That's cool. Maybe I didn't read my Bible.
And that's all right. We're imperfect people.
More of the Staying the Course podcast after this. Animate your words. An easy way for authors and speakers to show up and stand out on social media. If you're not getting their attention, someone else will. Go to philashley.com to schedule a chat. Are you a busy mom, college student, or businesswoman in need of a solution for your hair needs? Then Luxe Hair has high quality, low maintenance, and easy to install custom luxury wigs, sure to make your morning routine a breeze. Visit luxhaircollection.net for a free consultation.
Just thinking about, all the times that I spent with you, when you and your wife and your son were here in West Palm Beach, you used to lead this, Bible study group. And we talked about just numerous different topics, just about stuff that was just going on in life. And I know, like most people, you've had, tragedy that has hit your life. And then there's been moments of triumph, successful things that have happened in your life. What are some of those things that looking back on now that you would say has helped you, one, be the man that you are, and kind of kept you staying the course?
Yeah, that is a really cool question, man. There's been a lot of transitions, honestly, in my life. There's been a lot of shifts too at the same time. And honestly, I could even say there's been detours as we're here on this podcast, and we're, of course, it's called Staying the Course. I would love to say that I've stayed on course all the way through. And you know what? That's debatable too, because someone might argue, say, well, if God is in control, God is running everything, it's all according to his plan. And that is true at the same time. But for our minds as humans, we think we made mistakes. We think like certain things happen and it didn't happen by accident or happened on purpose, you know? And so there's been some things that's happened. Like I remember my wife and I, when we first got married in 2010, we got married and we was just careless. We wasn't even thinking. About 2 months later, we're sitting in the car and she's like, babe, I'm pregnant. And like, I did cuss. I did. I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't nice. I was really upset. Normally people would say, wow, oh my gosh. And you know what? Some people might throw stones at me and say, that's not right. There are people that can't get pregnant and, you know, here you are getting upset. And to me, I'm like, everyone is called to walk their own journey.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember thinking, that wasn't a part of the plan.
Come on.
That wasn't a part of the plan. And honestly, it was so scary because, Jimmy, when I tell you this, I never wrote or produced a song when she told me that. We were just, you know, newlyweds, just living the dream, honeymoon phase, right? That's what they call it. And we was just chilling, having fun. I was just working my job, just coming in and out. Just, you know, I put on about 20 pounds of weight. We just having fun. And about 2 weeks later, a tragedy happened, man. We lost a baby. And I had so much mixed emotions, man. I was happy. I was sad. I was depressed. So many different things. And bro, it was a wake-up call. I felt like it was God saying, you get another chance. Wake up and do something. It was literally a wake-up call for us. Bro, after that time, I bought my computer for the very first time. I never owned a computer at that time. I bought a computer, started writing, started producing. I learned all the equipment that I needed. My wife, you know, she's a hairdresser. She started grinding, started doing more weddings, started doing freelance work. And that was almost 10 years ago. That was actually 9.5 years ago. And we never looked back, man. It was a wake-up call and it put us on course to where we are now.
Wow, man. And your wife is a very talented cosmetologist, just like my wife, which is pretty interesting considering that we're friends and we both married to cosmetologists. So we know our wives always look good.
Yep.
Staying the course to some people may mean staying on one job, staying in one profession, staying in one area. But what does staying the course mean to you?
So when I think of course, I think of going on a road trip, right? We're going on a road trip and we're going somewhere. And when you go on a road trip, you have pit stops. There's sometimes you stop longer than other stops. But I just see it as I'm going through this journey and it's a road trip, right? And we're trying to make it there. And I've learned for us as a family and for everyone else, this might be different, but like, you know, the term, right? Man, we made it, or like when I make it. And for us, for the Aristil family, we've learned making it is not until we die and we make it to heaven. Like for us, that's making it. You know, I've struggled with that for so long because I was like, man, I can't wait to make it. And then it hit me. I was like, make it where? As we're going through this journey, right? As we're on this course, it's a full journey. You know, there's going to be some stops that we take longer than others. Some stops where we actually decide to camp. You know, we see ourselves as pilgrims. Actually, that's what we talk about. Like we're like pilgrims. And so we set up tents everywhere we go. And for others, it's different. For others, they feel like, hey, all right, we feel good exactly where we are. But I've learned a long time ago, in life, you're only going two directions. You're either going up or you're going down, right? There's none of this like just this flat line. We're just going straight, like, you know, like you could look at your spouse and say, babe, I think we're exactly where we want to be. I think let's just chill right here right now. Let's just stay here for the next 30 years. No, it's either you're going up or you're going down. I've learned that. And so staying the course means for me is as we're going through this journey, as we're on this road trip, there will be some times where we stop and we sit there for a little bit. We rest, we refuel, we learn, right? If we're in a car, right, we change our tires, we learn something new, right? We might have to upgrade certain things in our lives, gather some things, and we continue the journey. And I've had people in my past made me feel bad for that thought. I thought, man, I'm uprooting my family. I'm pulling them out. I'm taking them out from where they need to be, and we're going somewhere else. And to me, I'm like, it's a part of the journey. Every place that we've lived, my wife and I, between the two of us, we've lived actually in 6 states between just the two of us, 6 states, right? And for us, man, I don't regret one. There's not one thing I regret. Everything led to where we are now, man. If somebody would have told me 10 years ago that you'd be living in Los Angeles, California, I would say, man, get the heck out of here. Like, how? That doesn't make sense. I've lived in so many different places, but now it all made sense, right? So I couldn't skip one of the checkpoints, right? Like, let's call them checkpoints on this journey. And so that's what staying the course means to me, man. Everything leads to the next thing.
That's good. That's some stuff that we should be able to tweet. So is there a pivotal moment that changed the course of your life?
I will say, let's see, that changed the course of my life. Man, that's a really cool question. Last year, I was in a organization that I was a part of, and that's actually what moved us here to California. And after about 10 to 12 months, we felt like it was time for us to go to the next checkpoint. I felt like I did everything that I could there in that organization. I grew my team. I was actually even able to replace myself and work myself out of my role. And so we did this transition, and that was the start to so much. I spent my last 10 years, man, building other people's visions, right? In which, of course, we feel called to do that. I think that's something that we all should be doing in our lives, helping and serving others. However, at the same time, I believe we all have a baby inside of us. We all have something to birth. And if we neglect it, we can lose it, right? We can lose it. And so I've learned, as I'm helping your baby, I need to find balance on how to serve and nurture my baby that I have. And so this past fall, that transition, right, was a big change in my life. It was a big change. We had to take my son out of school because obviously all of our finances was just shaken up. So I took our son out of private school, and that was a huge change, bro. Huge change. We went from having him in school 40 hours a week to him being with daddy forever, like 100% of the time. And I went through some depression. I battled a lot of different things, and I was getting upset because, man, I have to have my son with me. And one day, bro, it hit me. I don't have to have my son with me. I get to have my son with me.
Yeah.
I get to have my son. And bro, that changed the way I thought as a person, as a father. And in the last few months, I've come to a season in my life where I finally realized my purpose here on this earth, things that I'm called to do. And one of them is to father the next generation, which is my son. I have someone that has the potential to be a world changer. And here I am thinking, man, I have to have my son with me. And I realized, man, I have to bring him to rehearsal. I have to bring him to sound check. I have to bring him to work. No, I get to bring him to rehearsal with me so he can see how daddy works. I get to be in long, hour-long car rides, right? Because LA, with the traffic, we're always in a car. I get to be with him in the car and teach him and pour into him. And that changed so many different things. That changed my mindset, man, just in the last few months. And that even changes my relationship with my spouse. And that changed the relationship with my friends, man. And so I'm in a season where I am valuing so much more things around me because of that pivotal moment that happened last season that shifted everything in my schedule. And that's where I am now.
That's awesome, man. And I know just from following you on social media that your son, Jordan, AKA Juice, is picking up instruments. I know he loves playing the drums.
Yeah.
And, I know some parents may dread buying drumsticks and even a drum set for their kids because it's just like a noisemaker, especially.
Yeah.
But man, I know he's soaking up all the stuff that you're showing him like a sponge, because I remember him just running around, aimlessly, just doing his own thing. But now I see him growing up, and I see him picking up some of the things that obviously you're the only person that taught him.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see how he is growing and developing as a young man.
More of the Staying the Course podcast after this.
What if the Lord had not been on my side? And what if the Lord never heard my cry? I'd be lost, but I know you would never let me go. No. The times I feel like it's just only me,
And you guys were just listening to No You Won't by Pierre Aristil, his new single out on July 9th on all platforms. Pierre, man, welcome back to the Stay the Course podcast. Where were you when you were writing this song? I know I've had a chance to kind of listen to it before it even hits the air, where most people get to listen to the entire song, which is an honor, and I appreciate you allowing me to do that. What was your inspiration? Where were you mentally when you were writing this song?
Oh man. So that the intro line, the first two lines in the intro where it says, "What if the Lord had not been on my side? What if the Lord never heard my cry?" I had that one day, I'd say about a year ago. It just popped in my head. And I sat on it for several weeks. It just came, it flowed out my mouth just like that. And I was thinking, wow, man, what does that mean? And I sat on that for a few months. And so the words started to flow. They started to flow throughout the lyrics, but they didn't mean anything to me. So I actually shelved the song. I sat for a couple of months and did nothing to it. It wasn't until recently I went through some situations, man. Just a lot of changes in my life, a lot of transitions. And I'm going to be honest. I really questioned God. I was actually really confused because I'm like, God, I feel like I follow you. I feel like I listen to you, but I don't see you. I hear the words that I get from you sometimes, right? But I'm like, I don't feel your hand. I I hear you, but I don't feel you, and I sat there, man, and I was really confused and I was frustrated, man. I was actually pretty frustrated and upset with God. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna confess right now on the air. I was disappointed in God, but it wasn't his fault. It was my fault, right? I put these standards. I'm like, hey, God, I feel like this is how you should do things. Here's how you should do your job. And he lets me down. I'm disappointed because he didn't go my way, right? So it's kind of like self-inflicted. And one day I woke up and I felt really heavy, and I just started I got really emotional and just started to cry out to God at that point. I was like, God, where are you? Where are you? Everything is hitting us. Finances are hitting us. My marriage was on the line. My wife and I was arguing, fighting every single day. I was depressed as a father. I went through so many different things. And bro, I heard in my heart, God say, I never left you. And man, I just balled up like a little kid and just like, wow. And that image of God saying, I never left you. I was there by your side. Holding on to you, and I'll never let go.
Wow.
And these words started to flow. I started thinking wow, no, you won't let go. Yeah, you won't let go. When I had none, I had you. Looking back through everything that I went through, you were the one that actually pulled me through. No, you won't let go. And that's how the song came. And then it all tied together and the rest was history.
Man, that's good. And when you were talking about the timing, and I was on social media today and I was just browsing around and I saw this post and it says, if it's not God's time, you can't force it. If it is God's time, you can't stop it. And it just had me thinking to wow, so often we want to rush God in, whatever we have going on in our life, when most of the time we put ourselves in that situation because, God didn't ordain this particular twist or turn in our lives. And then when we make that mistake, we're looking at him like, what are you going to do about it? And he's looking at us like, I didn't tell you to do that in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
And so, just listening to your song, I believe it will encourage some people. And once they hear, the place you were in your life when you actually put this, down on pen and paper and mixed it together, I think it will touch lives. And for me, when I write blog posts or share encouraging videos on Instagram or social media, I'm usually sharing something that I've walked through or I am going through at the time. Do you feel like with music and when writing a song that you put together lyrics and you pen words together based on situations in your life, or are you just throwing words together?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I spent the last several years writing songs for other people, for other artists, for other organizations, different groups, trying to think, what do they want to say? What are they trying to put across? And so I've had other lyrics that I've sat on actually for the last decade. I have some songs that I've sat on for a few weeks, some months, and I tried to finish them for these other artists. And I started realizing the reason why I can't finish them because they're my words. They're my words. And so I've learned right now that we're living in a time, in a generation where people are looking for authenticity, right? They're looking for someone that's real. They're looking for someone that can talk from their heart, and that's exactly where I am right now. So, bro, honestly, I'll have some lyrics that I'll start writing. I said, man, wow, this is heavy. And I'll go through a different season of my life and I can't finish those words because I'm not living those words. So I'll sit on those lyrics, or I'll sit on a verse or chorus idea. I'll sit on it for months until emotionally, mentally, I am back in a state where I could relate to those lyrics. So to answer your question, I write only what I'm going through. So if I have some words that I'm not going through them yet, I'll just shelf it. I'll sit on it and wait for when I'm going through that situation again so that I can be real with those lyrics.
Yeah, I feel like that's important. A lot of times these days, songs don't really have any, they have meaning, but they don't have any power behind them. They don't have a story attached to them. And I think people relate to people and people relate to stories.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started this Stay in the Course podcast, is because I believe everyone has a story and I believe everyone has a journey that they're going on, and each journey is different.
Yeah.
And I believe when people are listening, hopefully that each episode adds value to them in a way that it can help them in some form or fashion to help them stay the course. And even if they make transitions, that they'll have something to maybe listen to encourage them during the time. And I believe that your story and your music will do just that.
Absolutely.
So as a musician, what do you view as success? Some people say, hey, when I win a Grammy, that's success. But at the same time, once you hit that Grammy, what's next? So what is success for you musically?
Success for me is connection. Like, I want someone to connect. I want my lyrics to resound. Like, I want it to resonate with someone. I say this term all the time, and I'll probably say it forever. Every time I create something, I've learned that my music, my words, it's not for everyone, but it's for someone. I say that all the time. It's not for everyone, but it's for someone.
Yeah.
And that's all I care about. If I know that there was someone out there that said, wow, man, I was going through something and your song gave clarity. I have a song that I'm working on right now, currently soon to be released, like within the fall. I sent it to a friend of mine just for his feedback, actually. Just his feedback. He's one of my friends. We've actually worked together. We've written some songs together. And I said, hey, man, what do you think about this? He never sent me his feedback. You know what he texted me? He said, bro, I just got off a phone call and I was really contemplating the direction of where I should go with me and my family. And he said, your song right now just gave me peace. It just gave.
Wow.
Yeah. I sent it to him just for his feedback.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's exactly. And to me, man, I got so emotional. And he was like, bro, he said, I know the song's not done. He said, you wrote that song for me. I broke down. I said, oh my gosh, man. I said, thank you for your words. This is why I write my songs. That's what he said. He said, you wrote this song just for me. And to me, that's the success.
Wow. Going after the one.
Yeah.
Going after the one. Well, Pierre, in this part of the podcast, I do this thing where I ask people rapid fire questions. I have 5 questions for you. Some are just going to be you just answer, and others are going to be kind of fill in the blank, right? The first one is musical instrument you can't go without.
Ooh, bass, guitar.
Favorite artist, musical artist.
Man, I would have to say, that I feel like this is a trap question. I'd have to say right now I'm listening to a lot of Charlie Puth.
Wow. Okay. Favorite artist. Number 3, what would you like to be remembered for?
I'd like to be remembered for my message, like the words that I spoke.
That's good. What's your go-to snack?
Oh man, I'm gonna say peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms. I could eat a whole bag, like not the little tiny baby bags. I'm talking about the big party size ones. Peanut M&Ms, straight up.
Number 5, the least favorite meal your wife makes.
Anything with like broccoli or corn or olives, anything like that. She actually doesn't. Honestly, this is not me trying to brag, but I think she knows better.
Danny Lee, I'm sorry, I set him up for the trap. Pierre, I appreciate having you on the podcast. What are some ways the listeners can follow you and stay up to date with your music?
Instagram, anyone can follow me, of course. It's at Pierre Aristil. You can follow me there on Instagram. I post a lot. It's not just about music. It's motivational stuff. It's things to inspire and equip people. And we have a lot of fun too. We turn up, you know what I mean? And then of course, Facebook, but specifically Instagram. If you're connected to Instagram, we can stay connected. Anyone can message me. Most likely I will write back. Yeah.
Once again, if you enjoyed this sample of Pierre's new single titled No You Won't, make sure to download it on July 9th on all platforms. Pierre, thanks for being here.
Bro, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, man.
I'm Jimmy Johnson, and you've been listening to the Staying the Course podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you haven't yet, go to Apple, Google, and Spotify and subscribe, rate, and review the show today. And remember, you're called to stay the course.